Here's a weather outlook for Southeast Alaska from the National Weather Service in Juneau, Alaska. Hello everyone, meteorologist Grant Smith here with the National Weather Service here in Juneau, Alaska with another briefing of some potential winter weather on the way. We got some watches that will be going into effect tomorrow, Friday, for the Icy Strait Corridor, including Gustavus, Hoonah, and Juneau. This watch goes into effect Friday morning and lasts until Saturday morning. Now for the Skagway area, this one goes into effect Friday afternoon until Saturday morning for upwards of 3 to 12 inches of snowfall for all those areas. And that's a pretty wide range. So let's get into kind of what we're seeing and what we'll be watching over the next 24 to 36 hours here. So another round of snow switching over to rain. So we've got this system coming in from the west. It's going to move from west to east, and this is just a computer model simulation showing that snow moving in. And then notice at the very end of the loop, we start to see the greens coming in. That's that snow switching over to rain. Now, the challenge for this particular forecast is going to be, when will that snow switch over to rain? And so that's going to be the challenge going forward. And of course, going into looking at Hoonah and Gustavus, those areas, looking at a pretty good chance of seeing the rain move in late Friday into Saturday night. And then the higher up in Haines and Skagway, those areas, high chance of seeing just snow. It's just the watches out there because will you get the QPF, where you get the precipitation, the moisture, actually make it that far north. And there's some evidence you could see enough, but it's Juneau, of course, that is seeing the very low confidence or high uncertainty of when the snow will switch over to rain. So let's get into that just a little bit more here, as those are going to be, those final snowfall amounts are going to be highly dependent on when the snow switches over to rain. So first of all, we're going to take a look at this graph here. Let me get me out of there. There we go. So the main takeaways from this particular graph here. This is accumulated snowfall beginning Friday morning. 8 a.m. is that first bar there, all the way until 9 p.m. in the evening. So what I want you to notice is how the bottom of that bar, which is the low end, the lowest amount of snowfall, is 1 inch by Friday evening. So that would be a scenario where the rain moves in very quickly and we get just a little bit of snow and then switches over to rain and we go from there. The high end amounts is 4 inches by late in the evening to even upwards of 7, 8 inches by late in the evening. And that is because there's a wide range of timings of when that snow will switch over to rain. And the joys of this particular forecast we've been dealing with the past couple of days is the heaviest precip is expected to move in when that transition happens. And so if this low, which is centered way out west near the Aleutians, swinging a front end, if this low was just a little closer, it would have a lot more forcing, and that would help push the cold air out and we'd see rain pretty quick. But because the forcing, the main source of all this, is way out west, we're kind of wondering just how quickly will that cold air be eroded away by the front and allow for that snow to switch over to rain. So a very wide range of possibilities here of what could happen. And if you remember just a couple weeks ago, this is what we were dealing with. There's a cold air just sat in place in Juneau and then just had a hard time moving away. So this is just kind of just a first glance here of what we're looking at seeing. And then, so this is the precip type probability. So what to take away, lots of agreement there that the precipitation will start as snow. How you read this graph is you start from left to right. Notice how we're only seeing snow, 40 to 50% chance of seeing just snow. So, and no rain. So high confidence there of starting off as snow. But then as we go forward, the rain, which is the green line, the probability of precipitation type being rain starts to increase there. But notice it only maxes out at about 74, 75%. And then the snow starts to bottom out at about 26%. And so that's not really enough for us to really go full on confidence of, putting out a lot of snow or having it switch over to rain during Friday afternoon. So that's going to be that transition period. We're going to be keeping a close eye Friday afternoon to Friday evening of when the rain actually makes it in. And so model data is just struggling to find that timing of when that warmer air will move in. Also, if you lived in Juneau very long, you know that when surface temperatures are 32 to 35 degrees, that's still a window where we can see snow. And that's what the models are signaling at about 32, 33 to 35 degrees. And from what we can tell, one of the techniques of forecasting is you take the current data and compare it to actual observations, what's happening at around Juneau, around Gustavus, around Hoonah. And what we're noticing is that the model data seems to be a little bit warm than what it actually is. So it's actually colder. So when we take that in the back of our minds is we've got this warm bias. So all the snowfall would already be a little bit too low when really should be higher because we've got this cold bias. So that's already in the back of our minds going forward. This is another data set to look at, the West Wharf. What I want you to keep a note on is this very high spike here. This is where the snowfall is expected to move in Friday evening into Saturday. And so notice we got an 80% chance of 4 to 6 inches of snow over 24 hours. But then as you start to see those higher amounts, 40% chance there of 8 to 12 over 24 hours, and even a 10 to 15% chance of 12 inches of snow over 24 hours. Numbers like that give us a little bit of concern that there's a very high uncertainty of when that switchover will happen. And so, reminder, what's in the back of our minds is that if the model data is too warm, then the snowfall amounts would end up being higher. And so this is a very challenging forecast. It wouldn't be Southeast Alaska if things were nice and easy. So stay plugged into the forecast here. We just got these watches out. If we need to upgrade them to advisories or warnings, we certainly will. But for now, we just have these watches for the potential for a lot of snowfall in the area if this front can't erode the cold air away and switch it over to rain. So stay plugged into the forecast, weather.gov/Juneau, or here on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. So thanks for watching. Have a good one. And for the National Weather Service here in Juneau, Alaska, I'm meteorologist Grant Smith.